Hi everyone. So today I want to tell you about the two different kinds of solipsist that exist among the different subtypes of INFJ. This is a topic that I have touched upon before, but I never made a video about this and I think it needs to be done. So I think there really are two different kinds of solipsist. And in order to really understand this subtype, you need to understand that it comes in two varieties, and these two are not, they're certainly quite distinct. One can become the other, but often you'll find that it's not that easy, right? The reason why I want to maintain that these solipsists are not two different subtypes, which in that case would have led me to introduce a fifth subtype of INFJ, is that as you know, I prefer to designate a particular subtype as a function of the kind of lifestyle they lead primarily, and what it says about the way that they're deciding to embody their worldview. Okay, and you know, for all appearances, these two solipsists lead similar kinds of lifestyles: withdrawn, self-contained, superficially at least self-sufficient, and you know, sort of not very open to the social realm, shall we say. Okay, so to that extent, there is solipsism at work, withdrawal at work. Okay. Which means that there is an element of fantasy production that's perhaps higher than in the case of other subtypes, although that also can be debated. Now, the first solipsist is the pure NI solipsist. The second solipsist is the NITI solipsist. So perhaps we could call one of them the pure solipsist and the other one the looping solipsist. Okay? The pure solipsist on the one hand and the looping solipsist on the other hand. Now these two solipsists obviously have in common that they don't value FE very much, and that they are suspicious of the external world, and particularly the social world of intersubjective engagements. That's also what makes them solipsists. But you'll notice that the pure solipsist is very NI focused, whereas the looping solipsist is really NI and TI focused. So both highly introverted, but one is relying for the most part on one single function, whereas the other one relies on the two functions, and since they're both introverted and he relies pretty much only on those two, or she relies pretty much only on those two, the looping in this instance is inevitable. Okay, whereas a pure solipsist who's happy to just dwell within the womb of NI all the time is need not necessarily use TI at all. Okay, so how do they come across whenever people interact with them, whenever you may interact with them? Of course, given that they are withdrawn types, socially speaking, you're more likely to encounter them online than offline. And their online behavior is also a little bit different. Now, there are both subtypes of INFJ that are given to long, rambling elaborations of their worldviews. Often the content of the worldview is quite abstract, not always easy to know where they're going with it. Again, because their mind is kind of an echo chamber, you know, where there's no extroversion kind of piercing through and penetrating the NI circle. So long NI text walls, the sense that they're kind of, in some sense, talking to themselves and elaborating something with themselves, and if you like, the interlocutor often feels more like a spectator than an actual interlocutor. If you feel that way, you're probably in the presence of a solipsist. Now, the difference is that the pure NI solipsist either won't respond to whatever you say, or will respond in a way that almost makes you feel like they're looking past you, right? So they're looking at what you're saying kind of as a clue toward continuing to produce those long NI reflections, but they won't really be engaging with it, almost as if they're blind to it. They're certainly at least blind to the subjectivity that is expressing it. Whereas the NITI solipsist is not like that. They will acknowledge your response. And insofar as they acknowledge your response, they acknowledge your subjectivity. However, they will be defensive. And of course, they need to be defensive because you are a representative. By your very nature, you are a representative of the outside. You are a representative of the social world. So they need to defend against you, and they'll be a little bit more proactive in doing that. Right? So they will try to challenge and show how you're off the mark, because insofar as you're trying to bring much of a sort of contending worldview, they usually won't like it very much, but they will engage, even if it's to reject, right? So there is a little bit less of a intersubjective blindness in the NITI solipsist. And also what distinguishes the NITI solipsist is that within their own bubble, they are more concerned with bringing some refinement to their worldview. They're a little bit less mired in pure shelplessness, which you can observe in the case of the pure NI solipsist. Okay? So in terms of temperament, one is, honestly, one comes across as sort of another world, ethereal and disconnected in some way, you know, whereas the other one comes across as often come across as a little bit more like world denying in a cynical kind of sense. They're staking their position against the world, whereas the pure NI solipsist maybe didn't even notice there was a world in the first place, so to speak, and in the manner of speaking. So hopefully that clarifies some of those nuances and distinctions for you guys. If you enjoyed the vid, don't forget you can give me a like, and don't forget as well that I've written 2 books on the INFJ. The latest one, The Infinite Soul, INFJ Life in Modern World. To be a happy, purposeful, meaningful INFJ in the world today can be a bit scary, because the world itself is often seen as hostile and scary by a lot of INFJs. But this book explains and argues that only by being authentically yourself as an INFJ will you find purpose, value, and meaning. So get that at the link below, as well as my previous book, The Ecstatic Soul, a new look at the INFJ personality, which is the deepest investigation of the INFJ type you'll find online, particularly the mind of the INFJ and the being of the INFJ. If you want to know more about this, you should get this book. The two go very well together, of course. And don't forget, there's a Patreon page linked below. I could not do it without you guys. Patreon is the lifeblood of my channel in many ways, helps me keep going, and in return you get access to some quite nice perks, like a Discord server, which is a quite active community already, and I am present there pretty much every day. So if you would like to, you know, get involved, definitely join. There's also bonus videos every 2 weeks where I go more in depth in a particular topic, specifically for patrons, and other perks too. So hopefully see you there, and talk to you next time, guys. Bye bye.